YouTube. Fortunately, it's that time of year again for us that live up in the northern climates where the snow flies and the salt gets put down on the roads. Yep, time for winter storage. Here in Wisconsin where I live, it's been a really cold late fall. A couple days ago, a year ago from last Friday, I believe, it was 68 degrees. I think we set a record high. And a couple days ago this year, we set a record low of 11 degrees. So go figure. I'm pretty sure I had my car out at least until the week of Thanksgiving last year, which is pretty late for up here, but not this year. Z's been sleeping for about a week and a half now, so end of October, which is earlier than I wanted, but that's how it goes. Wanted to do one last video this year. Might do other stuff on the channel this year, but for at least for the car, since it's being put away, point of discussion on the forums and just in clubs and stuff is how to store cars and Corvettes specifically. I don't really try to make it complicated. A lot of guys do some crazy stuff with putting it up on jack stands and putting them in bubbles and all those kind of things. I don't do that. I have a quick list here I'll go through with you guys today. It's about 15 items. It sounds like a lot of things, but I'm going through everything in detail. But it really only takes me about a half an hour to store my car after it's all prepped and ready for storage. So we'll have a quick video here of the 15 items I do, and we'll take it from there. First, let's get this cover off. All right, we got the cover off here, so let's start our list. Number 1, fill up your gas tank. Of course, we want to fill it up with the best fuel you can find without ethanol if you have that in your area. For me, it's kind of a compromise because there's a few stations left that have 93, but they have ethanol in them. So I usually tend to run a mix of that and 91 with no ethanol. But point is try to get your tank as full as you can right before you store it. Number 2, stable. Of course, just like with anything else you store for long periods of time, over winter or even over summer, if you have a snowblower like me, you need to add appropriate amount of stable. Any stable will work. I know they have stable specific to ethanol gases, but since most of us try to run ethanol-free, just regular stable will just work fine. Follow the directions and put in as much as needed for the amount of gas in your tank. Number 3, wash. Of course, you want a clean car when you store it. Keep as much stuff off of it as you can, especially if you use a car cover. You don't want to scratch it at all, so a pretty obvious one, but number 3 is wash your car. Number 4, wax. It's kind of an optional step, but I would highly recommend it if you are able to. Wax your car. Again, helps keep the surface of your paint and all your surfaces nice and clean and protected. So car cover, dust, things that happen over the winter, you got that extra layer of protection. And look at that, my Adams bottle even has a Corvette on it, so how appropriate. So wax your car. Number 5, tires. What do we need to do with our tires? Well, simple. Just put some more pressure in it. I usually run about 38 to 40 psi in my tires. They're not going to flat spot, especially if you're only going to store it 5 or 6 months. The newer tires and the way they're designed, they don't flat spot, plain and simple. You do a lot more damage by putting your car up on jack stands and letting the suspension hang than you will by letting them sit on the tires. So just a couple extra psi. Even modern tires will lose air, especially in colder climates, especially if you're in a really cold uninsulated garage or you're stored outside. You're going to lose 4 to 6 psi. So usually when I go and start it first time in the spring, I'm right about back where I need to be, but you obviously want to check it. So just put a couple extra psi. I recommend about 40. Number 6, dryer sheets. I've been doing this with my cars, Corvettes specifically, for about the last 6, 7, 8 years. Bounce dryer sheets, any kind of dryer sheets, scented or not, it really doesn't matter. The chemicals that are put in those sheets, rodents don't like it, mice, voles, moles, those kind of things. Apparently they don't like it. I haven't had any problems with mice at all in all my years of storing, so I'm gonna take it as it's said and that it's true. So I put them around my tires, any place basically where they can kind of jump up, underneath the exhaust pipes, underneath the hood. You can even put them inside the car and in your engine bay if you want. I just kind of put them around the outside of the car. If you are in a barn or something where there's a lot of those rodents running around and could potentially get near your car, I would definitely use mothballs or something stronger. And obviously you don't want to put those inside the car because you'll never get that smell out. But definitely use some dryer sheets at a minimum to keep the critters away. Number 7, exhaust. Kind of to go along with number 6 with the dryer sheets. I take a really cheap route here and use some Walmart bags or some leftover plastic bags and wrap a little rubber band around the pipes just to keep the critters away from the nice front door, I'll call it, into your engine and into the really sensitive things. Our exhaust pipes are pretty big. Pretty much any squirrel, rodent, even a small rabbit could crawl into our pipes. You know, some are 3.5, 4 inches, depending on what system you got, and runs a 3-inch pipe all the way up to the engine. So definitely cover them up in any way you want. I just chose a cheap route, but definitely cover up your exhaust pipes. Number 8, windows. This isn't always required, but I've just done this in the last couple years because it seems like common sense to me to crack your windows. I usually have had them shut in the past, but it makes sense to me to keep air circulated through your car. Even if it's going to be covered up, it doesn't really matter. At least you'll be able to get some air through your car and help with drying and keeping things fresh. So crack your windows. Number 9, battery. Probably the most important one. Keep your battery maintained, whether you pull it out of your trunk or your engine compartment, wherever it is, or you hook up a good battery maintainer. Or flow charger is another name for them. As you can see here, I like the C-Tech brand. I have mine wired through the door. There's a little bit of an indent towards the bottom of the frame and the rocker by the door frame. It allows me to put the wire right into the car and into my USB or a power outlet in the console. So it's nice, and I don't forget that it's there because obviously I got to open up the door to get in it in the spring. So definitely don't cheap out on some no-name brand. They do work, but I would recommend something like a C-Tech. They're just a couple bucks more and a really good investment. So maintain those batteries. Number 10, neutral. I always put my transmission into neutral just to keep it out of gear. It really doesn't matter if you put it in different gear. Usually we put it in first or reverse just for normal parking and stuff a couple days a week at a time. When I'm storing my cars though, I like to keep things in neutral. Number 11, EBrake. This one I really didn't know about much until the last few years when I was reading up on, you know, winter storage and reading about new tips and things like that when you're bored and you got nothing else to do online. The EBrake obviously engages, you know, a pad in your rear braking system. So, you know, just to prevent the very, very slim chance that anything could lock up or get stuck with your EBrake cable or pads or anything like that in the rear, I just tend to keep it off. Just something I do and probably something I'll always do. So take your EBrake off. Number 12, dry packs. Another name for these are desiccant packs or silica gel packets. You can get these on Amazon or anywhere they sell packing materials. Reason for this is they absorb moisture. So if you're in a damper area and you're storing your car, definitely a good idea. Even if you're in a dry climate and you have a nice climate controlled garage, I would recommend it. Unless you're running a dehumidifier in your garage or something crazy like that. These packets are really cheap and get them for $1 or $2 for a couple of them. So order them up. Don't put them right on your upholstery or carpet, just in case they happen to break or wear out or something. You don't want any of that material getting on your interior. So I just put it on a piece of cardboard. So make sure you put some kind of dry packs on the interior. Number 13, wheel chocks. Obviously, since I have the car in neutral and the EBrake is not engaged, I need something to keep the car put. I have a pretty flat garage, but safety first, of course, anytime you're doing anything with the cars. So I have some nice race ramps chocks. I got a set of 4. I just use 2 on one of my rear wheels here, like you see, and that'll keep her solid. So make sure you chalk it up or block your tires so it doesn't go anywhere. 14, car cover. This is a personal preference one again. Some people, if you're in a nice clean garage, mine's pretty clean and it's in a safe space. Car covers, you don't need them. Sometimes they cause more problems than they solve, you know, with taking it on and off. If you're one of those guys like me that want to take a look at your car every so often in the winter, you know, you might scratch it here and there a little bit. But I tend to side on air of caution with using a cover. I don't have a super expensive one or anything crazy, just a standard one that fits my model. So just a nice little protection, especially if you're outside, obviously, or in a shed or something like that. You want as much protection as possible, just for animals, anything else floating around in those kind of structures and such. So make sure you put the car cover on. Number 15, last one, leave the car alone. You can take the cover off, take a look at it, go sit in it, make car sounds with your mouth if you want, and pretend you're driving and kicking some Hellcat's ass, you know, whatever makes you happy, but don't start the car. I hear this debate or read about it online pretty much every year this time of year from people that store their cars, and there's still people who say after all these years, you know, that they're going back to the old days of all rubber gaskets and things like that. And carbureted engines, they say you should start your car and let it run for a while, just get it up to temp. That literally makes no sense anymore with these modern cars. I think the de facto opinion out there now is don't start your car unless you're going to go drive it, get it up to temps and actually drive it. There's just no point. The most important takeaway, if nothing else from me regarding storage and such, is, and everybody should know that, is the hardest thing you can do to your car is to start it, right? The engine's cold, the lubricants, the oil, coolant, everything is cold. These cars aren't designed to run at 10 degrees with everything ambient temperatures in the engine. The engine is designed, especially high performance engines with very little clearances and higher compressions like ours, are designed to run at 200 degrees. So you can imagine, especially the Z06s with the air coolers, the oil air coolers on them, they don't get up to 200 degrees. So you're literally not doing any good by starting your car in the middle of January, February, March, just to, you know, let it run and sit in your garage and go exactly 0 feet just to get it up to some made up number or temperature that makes you feel good. So I might sound a little snooty when I'm talking like this, but I hear the argument all the time, and there's just no point. There's metal gaskets in the heads and everything else, the high quality rubber that's used on the hoses. Sure, everything wears down over time, but starting your car a couple times in really cold winters is not going to extend the life of those things whatsoever. So my opinion, take it from a novice, non-expert like me, but read about it from other sources, Corvette blogger and other sources where I get my information from that I'm saying to you guys. So just my opinion, but most important, other than the battery tender probably, of all these things, these 15 items today, is leave the car alone. So that's about it. That's the last Corvette video of the year, guys, and it'll be back in the spring. Hopefully it's a short winter. It's starting out pretty soon and early here this year, so hopefully it ends early as well and get the car out hopefully in March. Take care. Thanks for watching.